For more, joining us today, we have with us Professor Min Jeong-hun from the Korea National Diplomatic Academy. It's good to have you back on the show today.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So we've got the first reaction from North Korea over the recent talks with the U.S. Kim Yong-chol briefed Kim Jong-un on his meetings with Pompeo and Trump, and I would say Kim's reaction was very positive. If I quote directly from the North Korean media report, he said he spoke highly of President Trump for expressing his unusual determination and will for the settlement of the issue with a great interest in the second North Korea-U.S. summit. Are you surprised by this very overly positive response?
Not exactly surprised, but I welcome his positive response and reaction. As you mentioned, it is reported that the Kim Jong-chol made a briefing to Chairman Kim about his visit to Washington last week. And then in the meeting, the Chairman Kim first expressed great satisfaction when he received a letter from President Trump. And he also mentioned that he would believe in President Trump's positive way of thinking about the matter. So these are signs consisting of his positive reactions to the Kim Jong-un's visit this time. But there are other things that we have to focus on. And because he also mentioned that he would wait with patience and in good faith and make a progress together with the U.S. toward the goal set by the two countries. Now, these remarks consist of some the remaining things that two countries have to do. So it shows that some kind of gaps still exist between the two countries for the North Korea's denuclearization measures and U.S. corresponding measures. So, but the overall reaction by Chairman Kim means that North Korea and U.S. made some progress in terms of narrowing down their gaps in terms of the corresponding measures. So it is a good sign for the upcoming second summit between the countries.
You say Kim's reaction shows there was some sort of progress. We still haven't got the details of what they discussed, really. Well, we might never really find out. But what do you think that this reaction does suggest? I mean, what progress, detail-wise, do you think could have been made?
Think about what we got in the first North Korea-U.S. summit last year. You know, we got the historic first summit between the two countries, but there also was some kind of criticism that there was no specific measures or progress in terms of North Korea's denuclearization measures. So the North Korea and U.S. they're fully aware of what they did. And still in Washington, there are pessimistic views among the experts on North Korea and the Korean Peninsula, and they still be suspicious about whether or not the Chairman Kim or North Korea got the sincere will to denuclearize itself. So in the upcoming second summit between the two countries, the President Trump and Chairman Kim tried to make some kind of deal in terms of making progress on the North Korea's denuclearization measures. So, in terms of Kim Jong-chol's the visit to Washington and the following working level talks between North Korea and the United States and the South Korean representatives, the overall results of the meetings show that there have been some kind of the progress in terms of the main agenda of the North Korea-U.S. negotiations, specifically the North Korea's denuclearization measures and U.S. corresponding measures. And as you mentioned, we don't know yet what kind of the deals or the progress they made, but we will see the details of the progress when we got the second summit.
So we've seen Kim Jong-un's reaction. We also got a little bit of Pompeo's reaction earlier this week as well, because he held an interview with the World Economic Forum, where he seemed a bit more reserved about what's going on with the situation. He talked about the working level talks between US and North Korea in Sweden, and he said, quote, that a little bit more progress was made, but there were more steps to go. That little bit more progress, I mean, what do you think that tells us?
Well, we still wait until we get the second summit, because North Korea and the U.S. working level the officials, they will continue to talk, or they will have the dialogues and talks and again until the last moments of the second summit. But according to what the Secretary Pompeo mentioned recently, and first he mentioned that some progress was made in terms of the Kim Jong-un's visit to Washington last week, and also a little bit more progress was also made in terms of the working level talks recently in Sweden. So we got to see there's some progress. So we don't know exactly what happened there, but we just guess. But most people think that they have some progress in terms of the main agenda of North Korea-U.S. negotiations. So the North Korea's denuclearization measures and the U.S. corresponding measures. But as you know, what North Korea really want to get from the U.S. most is to relieve economic sanctions imposed to North Korea. And but the U.S. doesn't want to do that. And the U.S. is willing to relieve sanctions only when North Korea makes some real progress or significant progress in terms of the denuclearization itself. So the two countries are fully aware with that kind of situation, and the Secretary Pompeo mentioned a little more progress about the main agenda. So I suspect that the two countries got some progress in terms of exchanging the measures between the two countries, possibly some the significant denuclearization measures, including Yongbyon nuclear facilities or the dismantling some ICBMs and relieving the economic sanctions imposed to North Korea and the security guarantee measures.
The interview with Pompeo at the World Economic Forum was very interesting because he was asked about the economic potential of the private sector getting involved in North Korea. And he said right now there's not much role for the private sector to be involved in North Korea, but he continued to express how there will be, and that North Korea is very much well aware of that potential. Now, I'm not sure if this question was planned, but or if it was World Economic Forum who wanted to ask this question, or if it was Pompeo who wanted to bring it up. But what do you make of that comment?
Well, the private sector involvement to North Korea is not new, because the Secretary Pompeo already mentioned, and the President Trump already mentioned that kind of involvement last year, like during the first summit with North Korea in Singapore. And you remember that the President Trump and the Chairman Kim shared some kind of video showing the future development of North Korea during the summit. So the U.S. is focused on and the U.S. is trying to show North Korea that if North Korea completes its denuclearization measures, then the bright future, including economic development, will stay there, and will wait for North Korea. So what the Pompeo mentioned, the private sector involvement this time, just repeated that kind of the statement, that kind of the future of North Korea. So Pompeo mentioned that the private sector involvement to North Korea could happen only when North Korea completes its denuclearization measures. So just the repeated that plan, but it is also important why Pompeo mentioned that kind of thing this time. It implies that North Korea and U.S. made some progress in terms of the denuclearization and the corresponding measures provided by the United States. So based on some progress they made this time, Pompeo just showed off, or what kind of showed again what kind of the good things, the benefits to North Korea or the U.S. could provide to North Korea.
We'll have to see how that kind of factor gets involved in the new agreements. One more unexpected revelation that I want to touch upon in Pompeo's interview was that he revealed that the U.S. nuclear envoy, Stephen Biegun, was introduced to his new North Korean counterpart. Now, this comes as a surprise because we always thought his North Korean counterpart was the Vice Foreign Minister, Choi Sun-il. But now we're finding out that might not be the case, and there's reports coming out that it's actually going to be Kim Hyuk-chol, who's Pyongyang's former ambassador to Spain. What do you make of this development, and how do you think that affects these negotiations going ahead?
Well, I was also surprised to see that kind of their announcement, but I don't think that the Vice Minister Choi Sun-i would be wiped out or they're just excluded from the negotiations. Instead, I expect that Kim Jong-chol joins the negotiation teams to North Korea. And still, North Korea-U.S. negotiations are going through the initial process and the very crucial and the very critical process at the stage of the negotiations. So, and the Kim Jong-chol is leading the negotiation on the North Korean side. And for the upcoming the negotiations, more active negotiations with the United States and South Korea, the Kim Jong-chol need to have the more steps, more age, to facilitate the negotiations. So I think that the Kim Jong-chol just joins the team, and so the Kim Jong-chol and the Choi Sun-i will share, or they share their roles, and they will actively respond or cooperate with the U.S. and the South Korean counterpart. So I expect that Kim Jong-chol will continue to lead the negotiations, and he got the more age to help him for the negotiations.
So now that we know Kim Jong-chol is Stephen Biegun's counterpart, and we've had these working level talks in Sweden, and we've had this other talks as well between Kim Jong-chol and Pompeo and Trump. So what comes next now? We know that they've announced that there's going to be a U.S.-North Korea summit towards the end of February. But what happens in between then? Are we going to see far more working level talks, or do they need to be senior level talks? What can we expect?
Well, first, I expect that the North Korea and the U.S. will announce the when and where the second summit will be held sooner or later, considering the positive responses or reactions that President Trump and Chairman Kim made recently. And then the working level talks, including the senior level talks, there would be no difference between the senior level, the minister level, or the working level, the talks, because they are working like they're just one team. So and the top leader, or they are leading by the Kim Jong-chol and the Pompeo, and the Choi Sun-i and Biegun and Kim Jong-chol and other officials are consisting of their teams. So probably there could be some possibility that there would be some kind of different or separate the meetings between senior level and the working level talks. But we got just 1 more month to go before the second summit. So I expect that they just working together as one team, and probably like 2+2 meetings, including Pompeo, Kim Jong-chol, and the Choi Sun-i, Biegun, Kim Jong-chol, and they working together as just one team and respectively, and they try to meet as much as possible, like in Panmunjom, the 5 or 6 times were possible, because they still got some kind of gaps in terms of the main agenda of the summit. So they try to, I expect that they try to meet and hold the meetings and again, and try to narrow down the gap and make a good deal for the second summit. That's what I expect in the near future.
So it's going to be a very busy few weeks for these officials. We hope you can keep an eye on that and let us know more about that as well next time you come in. Thank you for coming in today and sharing us your insights.
Okay, thank you.